Hi, it's Paul here from selfhelpforlife.com, and this video is all about compassion. We know that being compassionate is really important for other people, but it has a number of hidden benefits for you as well. So I'll talk about what is compassion and also what is self-compassion. That's slightly different. I'll talk about why it's important and what are the benefits of compassion. I'll then cover several ways to help you be more compassionate and develop compassion in your life. So what is compassion? Well, compassion is helping to relieve another person's suffering, and that's done through acts of kindness, caring and support. And compassion includes empathy, and empathy is being present to another person's suffering. It's feeling and sensing their emotional experience. And it's also being non-judgmental, so not judging how they got into this predicament in the first place or judging how they're dealing with it right now. Compassion is being more concerned with the well-being of others rather than yourself. It's also a natural skill, but it's one that we seem to have forgotten in the busyness of modern life. But it is a skill that can be relearned. And as you practice compassion more regularly, it starts to become an attitude, a way of life for you, and it becomes a part of your identity, a part of who you are. So an important part of compassion is self-compassion. So what is that? Well, self-compassion is doing what you can to relieve your own suffering. It's putting yourself first. It's being kind and gentle on yourself. It's doing whatever you can to avoid situations and people that could create suffering in your own life. And you are much better able to be more compassionate with others when you've developed self-compassion first. So why is compassion important and beneficial to you? Well, it helps you reduce anxiety, and it does this by taking your mind off yourself, taking your mind off your own problems and your own worries. And you realize also that you're okay. You know, when you're looking at what's happening in someone else's life and you really get a sense of what they're going through right now, you realize that actually your own life is okay. You're actually doing all right. And that also helps you really appreciate what you already have. Now, compassion is important and beneficial also because it helps you reduce fear. In a way, compassion is the opposite of fear, and you can't feel fear when you're really displaying compassion. Compassion also helps you reduce stress, especially when you're practicing self-compassion, because you won't drive yourself quite so hard. It also helps you put your own issues and deadlines into perspective. You realize that they're less important than you thought they were previously. It also helps you to reduce burnout because you look after yourself better and you take more breaks. Being more compassionate also makes you happier. That's partly because you're less stressed, less anxious, and there's less fears, but it's also down to this genuine desire to help other people. And the Dalai Lama has a great quote for this, which is, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." Another benefit of compassion is more meaningful relationships. So it helps you understand other people at a deeper level and develop better connections with other people as well. It also helps you develop deeper friendships. Some of those can last a lifetime. Compassion also helps you understand yourself and others more, and it's also great for your own health and well-being. Now, I won't go into all the reasons why that is right now, but there's been lots of studies that have gone into that. But basically, it's good for you. Compassion can also help speed up the recovery from diseases. So compassion actually promotes healing. So the more compassionate you are, the more benefits that is for you. But also if other people, so particularly people in the medical profession, if they're very compassionate with their patients, then their patients tend to heal faster and have a better result compared to a medical professional that's very cold and very scientific about it. Also, people are more likely to go back to a medical person who is compassionate than someone that isn't. And the medical world get very little training on things like compassion, but it is such an important component to healing and physical recovery. Compassion is contagious. When you act with compassion, others that you interact with are inspired to act with more compassion as well. It's also pleasurable and it feels good. It creates more meaning in your life, it creates more fulfillment in your life, and it's a bit like giving a present to a loved one. You get that pleasure in giving to someone as well as receiving from them. I also reckon that if people were more compassionate, there would be less road rage. Imagine you have this driver in front of you and they're driving a little bit more slowly than you would like, and perhaps they forget to signal. Well, if you just think, well, perhaps they're having a bad day, perhaps they're a nervous driver, then you're going to be more compassionate, more patient with them, rather than in the past you might have got angry with them. So now you know what compassion and self-compassion is. You know the importance of compassion and the benefits of doing it. So I'm now going to cover some ways to help you develop more compassion. So a good place to start is to develop the ability to be totally in the present, so to be mindful. So when you're totally in the present, this is when you're not regretting things that have happened in the past and when you're not thinking or worrying about something that might happen in the future. So you're totally in the moment. And a good way to do this is to focus on all your senses. So what you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel, what you can taste, and also what you can touch. Because when your brain is focusing on all those external senses, it has a lot less time to be able to focus on the thoughts and things that are going on in your head. So another good way to develop compassion, and this one's a little bit more tricky, is to let go of judgment. So to become non-judgmental. So our minds always like to make judgments, especially about other people. I feel it's our ego at play, which is why this happens. So letting go of judgment is not an easy thing to do, but the way you do it is you notice the judgment and then you just decide to change that to not judging. So just start perceiving what's happening and just let go of any meaning you give to it in a way. So it's a bit like the same thing you do with mindfulness. You notice what's happening, but you let go of the meaning or the judgment that you give to it. Because in reality, it's impossible to know how someone got into that difficult situation. We can only make judgments about that, but we never really know. And it's also impossible to know how we would deal with being in the same situation as that person. It's impossible to know that without actually experiencing that situation. So instead of judgment, focus on connection. So whenever you notice yourself judging something about someone else, just focus on getting a better connection with that person instead. Another good way to develop compassion is by practicing gratitude. So this is focusing on what is good in your life, what is going well, and what you appreciate. And when you do that, you're naturally more compassionate to those people who are less fortunate than you are. Another good way is to be kind on yourself. When you're focusing on your mistakes, ruminating excessively, or self-loathing, that benefits no one. So instead you want to start practicing self-compassion. So start doing acts of self-love and start forgiving yourself. So another great way to develop compassion is to think and act from the heart rather than the head. So the head is the place for logical reasoning. That's where your analytical mind lives. The heart, on the other hand, is the emotional center. And the analytical mind in your head just can't do compassion. So when you start to focus more on your heart rather than your head, you will find that you're naturally more compassionate. So another good way is to be authentic. So this is being yourself and acting naturally. It's thinking, saying and doing what comes naturally rather than what you think you should say or do. And remember, we do naturally have compassion. It just tends to get lost with the stresses and anxieties of modern daily life. So the last way is volunteering. So this could be to volunteer your time or donate some money. And this is a great way to display compassion. And there was a study that found that older people, so retired people that volunteered regularly, live longer than those that don't. So there you go, volunteering is good for you as well. So now you know what compassion and self-compassion is, you know why it's important and the benefits of doing it, and I've also covered a number of ways to help you develop more compassion. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and do leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And do subscribe to this channel and click the bell notification. That way you will always be notified whenever I release future videos. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to sharing more great content with you very soon. Bye for now.